Hello, and welcome to 1987, and the second season of the revival of Twilight Zone, the classic Twilight Zone. And we're starting off with a story by R.R. Martin, the Once and Future King, and it is a weird episode, and I love it. So it's all about an Elvis impersonator who happens to meet Elvis and take his place and live his life. It starts with a car crash, which we do not get to see. It happens off screen. And then the driver of the car who crashed him drives away and just looks at the upside down car in his rearview mirror. Now, this shot isn't an actual shot into a mirror. It's just superimposed on top in post-production. It's nice though. Then he meets Elvis, and Elvis works for Crown Electric. Now, of course, it's Crown Electric because it's the king, right? That's how that works. The man that is the boss of Crown is a man named Harris, and he's played by Red West, who was Elvis's bodyguard and friend back in the day. So they actually got a real life connection there. There's some good split screen work here when they're talking on the stairs. Oh, sorry, Kat, you're gonna have to be partially covered. But there's a good split screen here. The seam is nice, and they do a really good job. You get a bit of a problem with the focal length in some of the shots because it's actually two shots that you put next to each other. So you can have a focal length here and a focal length here. But when you put them together, it just looks like the entire shot is tilted. It's not a big deal, but I noticed because I'm picky. They have a few body double shots for the warehouse and the over-the-shoulder sort of shots and stuff like that. But it's not like Saturday, which was the first episode of the first season back in '86, where you have a lot of use of it. They don't have that much here. He ain't no brother and he ain't no friend of mine. He just slipped that in there because that's the thing. I like the fight scene, because you have this, you can't have the actor fighting himself, obviously. That looked like Ed Harris in Monty Python. So instead you have to block out the fact that it's a body double. And they do that with the elbow. And it looks kind of natural. So if you don't think about it, it would actually make sense. But it looks like that. And it makes sense. And I'm there for that. That works. Elvis falls and is impaled and dies. We don't see the actual impalement, and we don't see any blood coming from underneath the shelf he's on. And in the next shot, he's wearing the shirt. He could, of course, laundered it or found another one if it had tears in it. But it's the same shirt and it has no marks on it, which was a bit cheap, maybe. Then he goes in, becomes Elvis, and the episode ends with him sitting in Vegas talking to Sandra, and it ends with a pullback with the reflection of Vegas in the hotel window. That isn't Vegas. That's just a picture of Vegas that they projected on top of this. They did really well, but it's still just a shot. I think Sandra could have dropped in the beginning of the episode that, oh, don't knock Vegas. I met Elvis in Vegas once, and he could have gone, yeah, you've told me 1,000 times. Something like that. It would have tied it together in a way that I think would have been satisfying. And it also would have asked the question, what of this was actually real? We're back to another format. So CBS struggled with the format of this show for this season and had declining ratings and stuff. So they actually dropped it back to 30-minute episodes and then started airing them back-to-back. So what I'm going to do, my commentary is that I'm going to do 2 of these stories per clip of mine. And my DVD collection is not in the same chronological order as the release back in '87. So my apologies. It might be a mess, but that's the way it's going to be. But yeah, so we're 2 episodes per clip. That brings us to my second segment, which is second on my DVD. I have no idea. I think it's like 5 on the chronological release, but it's not on this. And I don't think it was when it was rerun either. But it's The After Hours. And The After Hours is, of course, a remake of the classic episode with the same name. But this one is a bit more dark. It's a bit more menacing. You have these weird interactions in the beginning when she tries to get into the store, and you have this person following her and all that stuff. It's not the same vibe as the original at all. You don't have the comedic relief of the store manager, which you had in the first one. Nothing of that. But it works. I think it works really quite well anyway. It's a bad security guard though. Like, he's bad, right? We have to agree that he's bad. Because he goes, miss, the mall's closing. And she goes, yeah, just a minute. And he just goes, okay, and leaves. Like, a security guard would be responsible for making sure that she wasn't in here anymore. She doesn't work there. Like, why is she there after closing? So Terry Farrell, who plays Marsha, that's Jazeera Dax from Deep Space Nine. And fantastic. I love seeing her in this. She starts running through the store, not that much similar to the original, where she just sort of stumbles into some people, but here she goes on full panic flight mode, and the displays are on, and a lot of the lights are on, and a mall wouldn't have that. They would have closed it down. They would have just been dark. And then she slowly sort of starts turning back into a mannequin, and you see her. Yes, you see her leg turning into this wooden enamel plastic thing. That's wood leg, right? It's a wood leg, painted wood leg. And then her arm, and then you have this shot. Sorry, Kat. Where you can see where the cast ends under her sleeve if you look very carefully. You can see that it goes just above the elbow, and then there's some tape that holds it in place. I like the original better, I think. This speaks more to the 80s sensibility, I think, of being more spookums. The other one is a bit more refined and supernatural. I don't like the very, very short tie-in with the kid, for instance. The rules aren't quite as clear of how it works. Like, can the mannequins all move around at night, but they can't leave? Like, how it's not quite as laid out. And you don't need that layout either, because in the original, there's no such thing, and it works just fine, because it's just supernatural and weird. But not in this episode. And I'm not completely fine with it, I think. But that's how she ends, in her weird pose, looking at a fan. But that's where we are. But that's the two first episodes that we're going to cover on the second season of the first revival of the Twilight Zone. And I'll be back next week with another two. And I'll see you then. Take care now.